The moment he saw her shoulders trembling, something inside him cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet, aching way that only people who have survived too much can understand. The cafe was flooded with soft daylight, the kind that made everything look warmer than it really was. Outside, people passed by with purpose, laughter, and ordinary worries. Inside, life seemed paused in a fragile stillness. And there she was, sitting by the window, her coffee untouched, her fingers clenched tightly around a napkin as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. He wasn't supposed to be there that day, and yet somehow he was. Before we go further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of simple human connection, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Home with Dad. Stories like this deserve to be felt, shared, and remembered. Arman Qureshi had never planned his life to turn out the way it did. No one does, really. But life had a way of rewriting scripts without asking for permission. At 34, he was already carrying the weight of 2 lifetimes. A single father to a 7-year-old daughter named Mayer, he had learned to navigate mornings filled with tangled hair and half-burnt toast, evenings of homework battles, and nights where silence sometimes felt heavier than noise. His wife had been gone for 3 years, not by choice, not by distance, but by something far more permanent, something that left no room for arguments, apologies, or closure. Illness had taken her slowly, painfully, and by the time it was over, Arman wasn't the same man anymore. Grief had reshaped him into someone quieter, more observant, someone who carried pain not as a burden to be shared, but as a constant companion. He had built a life around survival. Not happiness, not dreams, just survival. Work was his anchor, a modest office job that paid enough to keep things stable, predictable. His coworkers knew him as reliable, polite, distant. He didn't talk much about his personal life, and they didn't ask. It was an unspoken agreement that suited everyone, except for her. Her name was Sana Mirza. She had joined the office 6 months ago, bringing with her a kind of brightness that felt almost out of place in their gray, routine-driven environment. She laughed easily, spoke kindly, and seemed to carry an energy that made people feel seen, even on their worst days. Arman had noticed her, of course. Not in a romantic way. He had closed that chapter of his life long ago, but in the way one notices sunlight after being in the dark for too long. Still, they had barely spoken beyond casual greetings until that afternoon in the cafe. He had gone there on impulse, something he rarely did. Mayer was at school, and he had a rare hour to himself. Instead of going home, he found himself walking into that cafe, drawn by something he couldn't quite explain. And then he saw her. Sana, the always smiling, always put-together Sana, was crying, not quietly, not gracefully, but in a way that spoke of something breaking deep inside. Her shoulders shook, her face buried in her hands, as if she were trying to disappear from the world. Arman froze for a moment. This wasn't his place. He wasn't the kind of person who intervened. He wasn't good with emotions, especially not other people's. But something about her pain felt familiar, too familiar. It was the kind of pain that didn't come from a bad day. It came from something bigger, something heavier, something that had been building for a long time. He hesitated, his instincts telling him to walk away, to mind his own business, to return to the safety of his quiet, controlled world. But then, he thought of Maher, of the nights she had cried after her mother passed, her small hands clutching his shirt as if letting go would make her lose him too. He remembered how helpless he had felt, how desperately he had wished someone, anyone, would understand what they were going through, and suddenly, walking away didn't feel like an option anymore. He approached slowly, unsure of what he was. Even going to say, Sana didn't notice him at first. Her world had shrunk to the space of her grief, and nothing else seemed to exist. Arman stood there for a moment, awkward, uncertain. Then quietly, he sat down across from her. She looked up, startled, her eyes red and filled with embarrassment. For a second it seemed like she might get up and leave, but she didn't. And that's when he said it. Not something poetic, not something carefully thought out. Just one honest truth. whatever it is. You don't have to carry it alone. The me. Words hung in the air, simple yet heavy with meaning. Sana stared at him, as if trying to understand whether he meant it or if it was just another empty phrase people say when they don't know what else to do. But there was something in his eyes, something steady, something real, and that was enough. Because sometimes the right words don't need to be perfect. They just need to be true. That day marked the beginning of something neither of them had expected. Sana didn't open up immediately. Pain doesn't unravel that easily, but over time, in small, hesitant pieces, her story began to surface. She was drowning. Not visibly, not in a way the world would notice. She still showed up to work, still smiled, still fulfilled her responsibilities. But beneath that carefully constructed exterior, she was falling apart. Her father was critically ill. Medical bills were piling up faster than she could manage. Her engagement had recently ended, not because of a lack of love, but because life had become too complicated, too heavy. The man she had planned a future with had chosen an easier path, leaving her to face everything alone, and alone was exactly how she felt. Until that afternoon, Arman didn't try to fix her problems. He didn't offer solutions or advice. He simply listened. And in a world that often rushes to speak, to judge, to solve, that quiet presence became something invaluable. In return, something unexpected happened. For the first time in years, Arman began to open up too. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, as if testing whether it was safe to let someone in again. He spoke about his wife, about the nights he still woke up expecting her to be there, about the fear of failing as a father, about the loneliness that came not from being alone, but from feeling like no one truly understood. Sana listened the same way he had listened to her, without interruption, without judgment. And in that shared space of vulnerability, something shifted. Their connection wasn't built on attraction or convenience. It was built on something far deeper, understanding. Days turned into weeks. Their interactions moved beyond the cafe into conversations during lunch breaks, quiet walks after work, and occasional visits where Sana met Meher, who quickly grew fond of her gentle warmth. For Meher, Sana became a source of comfort. For Sana, Meher became a reminder of hope. And for Arman, something he thought he had lost forever began to return. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of it. The possibility of feeling again without fear. The possibility of letting someone in without losing himself. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Sana's struggles didn't disappear overnight. Arman still had moments where grief hit him unexpectedly. There were setbacks, difficult days, moments of doubt, but they faced them together. And that made all the difference. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from grand gestures or life-changing events. Sometimes it comes from a single honest moment in a quiet cafe, from choosing to sit down instead of walking away, from saying you don't have to carry it alone, and meaning it. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps stories like this alive. As time passed, both Arman and Sana began to realize that what they had found in each other was rare. It wasn't about replacing what was lost. It was about building something new, something honest, something rooted in understanding and resilience. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Before we reach the end, here's a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe that even the smallest acts of kindness can change a life, because they can. They really can. In the end, it wasn't a dramatic confession or a grand romantic gesture that defined their story. It was that one moment, that one truth, that one decision to care. And in a world that often feels too fast, too distant, too indifferent, maybe that's exactly what we all need. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that they're not alone.